Hey guys, thanks for clicking on this video, and as the title is indicating, I want to talk a little bit about grip comfort. My last shooting session with my 58 Remington Navy, I discovered that when I was finished, the top of my knuckle, which would be my middle finger, was very sore. So that's what I'm going to address here, and I just want to show some different grips and just show what might be contributing to some of your accuracy problems per se. Because if you have any portion of your hand that hurts while you're shooting, you may not conscientiously recognize it or tune into it, but it is there. So I'm going to get repositioned here, I think, and I'll discuss a little bit further regarding this. For argument's sake, I'm going to be holding the revolvers in my left hand. Now I do shoot left-handed, so I'm going to be picking these guns up with my left hand, and I'm going to try to position everything correctly into the camera, because as I look at the view screen right now, everything is kind of backwards. So please bear with me as I try to get the revolvers close enough in so that you can see what I'm talking about. And in my particular case, because this may not affect you the way it does me. Okay, so with that being stated, I want to start with the 1860 Army. We all know that the grip section on the 1860 Army is longer. So when I grip this gun, cock it, and find the most comfortable position to shoot in, you can see how the grip is curved. Right here, the back of the trigger guard, I should say, is curved. And it really fits my middle finger very nice and very comfortably. So when I grab this gun and naturally extend it as a straight extension of my arm, and even at that, you can see that there's a little bit of gap there. So my knuckle is not touching the back of the guard. And that's because the 1860 Army has a much longer grip section. So this gun, for me, is very comfortable to shoot. Now we all know that the 61 Navy has a shorter grip section. And yes, I'm very well aware, you know, the back of this right here on this particular gun is not period correct. I get it. But when I hold this gun in its most natural position, cock it and getting ready to fire, you see the same thing. The back of the trigger guard just kind of hugs the finger, and it's very comfortable shooting as a straight extension of my arm. Now I get to my Remingtons, and I want to talk a little bit about the quality control. If you friends go over and find the channel Black Powder and Light, L-I-G-H-T, this young man just put up a video recently also discussing about the quality control from Pieta right now, because what he is showing is that the inside of his barrels are pitted. I've double checked mine. You all know that in my 58 Navy, there was pieces of filing, metal shavings left behind in the barrel, but my barrels are not pitted. I kind of surmise this to be pre and post COVID, the pandemic, because if you go back and look at the unboxing of my 58 Army, the 44 caliber, my trigger pull, there was zero to no creep. And I don't know whether I focused on that or not, but I am now, because I also know that the channel Old Ranger with a newer Remington, he experienced the same thing, quite a bit of creep. This one has very, very little creep before the hammer drops. Now, in the most natural position, I can see that the top of my knuckle is touching the back of the guard, even on this 58 Army 44 caliber. But it's not really uncomfortable, because when I feel the top of this guard, it's actually smooth and round all the way through. So this gun is not uncomfortable to point and aim and shoot, even though it's on top of my knuckle. Now when it comes to my Navy model, it's very uncomfortable to point and shoot. And I do have this in my right hand this time, so let me move that around. Because what I'm surmising is with the amount of creep right here, you know, as I'm pushing or pulling the trigger with all that creep, it's letting me be aware that it's actually up against the top of my knuckle. So, with that being stated and talked about, when I run my finger over the top of the guard back here, I can actually feel a very distinct ledge or hump, almost like whoever was sanding the brass didn't make it nice and smooth. And I think that's part of the quality control issue right now, because this Army, 58 Remington Army, was actually manufactured in 2017. This Navy was manufactured in 2022. And I think that that's where we're seeing some of the quality control issues with Pieta. And if you go back to this channel, look at the unboxing of this particular 61 Navy, you'll see that I had issues with it also. So I don't know if we really need to be cutting Pieta any slack, or just being aware that some of the things we're experiencing might be post-COVID. So what am I going to do to resolve this? Well, obviously the first thing I'm going to do is smoothen the back end of that trigger guard and get that, what feels to me to be an obvious hump. That'd be the simplest thing. Secondly, if that still leaves my fingers feeling uncomfortable, then obviously I'm going to have to remove the grips, and I'm going to have to remove some of the metal right in through here so that it allows me to be able to grip the firearm a little further back. You know, and here again, if you look at the difference between the gap distance between here in the back of the trigger guard and the Colt, you can see that there's a huge difference as far as the spacing between the back of the trigger guard and what would be the leading edge of the grip section. And just for argument's sake, or just for thinking ahead, the comment sections, yes, I have removed wood off of the grips already. And that's not because I was conscious of it hitting or hurting my knuckles. It's because I was already conscious that this was way too fat for my hands. And even at that being stated, with that being stated, the last shooting session, I had not removed any of the wood off the grip section here, and my knuckles were still hitting the back end of this guard very uncomfortably. So those are my options. I don't know whether I'm going to really record anything taking metal off the back of the guard. That's not a big deal, but if I end up getting to where I have to remove the grips and remove some of the metal that's in the leading edge of the grip, then I may just go ahead and kind of record a little bit of it so you kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to accomplish. Alright friends, well, thanks for watching, and I hope that everybody will take a moment to like and subscribe, and maybe take a moment to share it with your bestest buddy. Well, I think I accomplished what I set out to accomplish. I won't know for sure until I have some time to get out and do some shooting. But for the time being, I'll show you what I did. First of all, I narrowed the width of the back of the trigger guard. I removed some of the metal brass right in through here, all the way up to almost the top of the curve. It appeared to me that not enough of the brass was removed, because when I actually got to working with it, that hump that I was discussing earlier, in my opinion, I think that was part of the casting when they cast it. And even though it was shiny and bright and you couldn't see a distinct casting line, I still think part of that was left behind. So what I'm going to do, take a moment, reinstall it, because if you guys remember in the previous video, I actually had to fit this trigger guard a little bit better to the revolver. And just in case I forget to mention earlier, this particular revolver was made in 2022, post-pandemic, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to be so rough on Pieta, recognizing that maybe they lost some of their good quality employees. The same should hold true for Uberti. So let me get this reinstalled and I'll show you what would be my natural fit and how it works for the time being, and or how it fits right now for the time being. Alrighty, with the firearm straight in my wrist, in my hand, it's just a natural straight extension. You can just barely see that it's just barely touching the top of my knuckle. And the fact that I've actually worked on the trigger a little bit and gotten rid of some of the creep, I can't really feel that on the top of my knuckle. But like I said, I won't know for 100% till I get out and actually do some target practicing. I hope this might give you guys some suggestions, because in my opinion, if your handgun is not comfortable, then you need to do the work that's necessary to make it comfortable so that you can enjoy your shooting sessions. Have a great day, guys.